Black people in the United States do more crime. Face value, it is a correct statement. But most people who say that statement follow with, and therefore we should ... and it's almost never good for Black people.
You don't agree with me because that's not what you said. You just said the exact opposite thing. You said that if you think that somebody has a bad intention or a bad prescription in mind at the end of it, that you're gonna push back the entire time. You gave the exact opposite answer. If somebody says 1350 or if somebody says some other dog, we say, okay, yeah, that's true. What do you wanna do about it? And then you move on to the next part of the conversation and then you fight there. You don't fight them descriptively on every single point they're making down the road because all that does is it gives the impression to everybody on the outside that, wow, this person is afraid of the truth. This person is pro-censorship. This person is somebody who's trying to hide what's reality, and then you lose all credibility, and then the dog whistlers win.
So I misspoke, and I invite him in, and I want to have sex.
Wait, hold on. It could be. My guess is going to be that...
Wait. The only point I'm making,
yes.
That's not what I asked. Okay, so...
My goal is less, if that's what if you want like 2 words, less is the goal. Let's say that I watch a clip and somebody says something like, I think that women can take more responsibility to avoid sexual assault, depending on the situation they place them in. Let's say somebody says something like that, right? That's like a highly sus statement, right? That's gonna throw up a ton of red flags. I'd probably have to investigate a little bit more to find out how I feel about that statement. If I'm talking to Brittany Simon, the lady that I was talking to yesterday, and she says that, I'm probably gonna almost completely agree with her. If I'm on Fresh and Fit and Myron says it, I'm probably actually gonna push back against that statement. I'm gonna say, I don't think sexual assault actually tends to happen the way that you think it does. It's not like a woman is walking down a street and has a dress on and just gets raped. Like usually it's people that you know, like I'll probably explain it. But Brittany knows these things. So when she says it, there's a way different like family of association when she's saying that, in terms of she's probably thinking she's giving more like reasonable advice, things that I would probably agree with, as opposed to like a hardcore red pillar saying, I'd probably like, okay, hold on, let's take a step back and analyze like what exactly is going on. But things like sexual assault and rape, those are like really, really complicated. Or like if we're talking about like racism or like big systemic things, these are things where we're gonna need a lot more context. If it's just like a one-off like analysis of a situation, like, oh, I think Rittenhouse was in self-defense or not, or oh, I think that this gym video, the guy was creepy or not, I'll probably be a little bit more harsh on those judgments for like particular scenarios. But if somebody's giving a really broad analysis of something and making really broad statements, I'm probably going to need to know a little bit more about them before I move into like hardcore condemnation mode. But I'm sure there are some people that I've agreed with because what they said, if I'm charitable enough, works, like Mr. Girl, that I shouldn't have agreed with. And I'm sure there are some people that I probably disagree with, where people, this will happen unfortunately with Jordan Peterson sometimes, where he'll say something and I'm like, this is so stupid. But then I dig in a little bit more and I'm like, oh, okay, well, given what he's talking about, actually, I think I kind of like, I can understand what he's saying now when he means when he says this. I kind of agree with that now. So it just
like the video I sent you.
Which video?
I sent you him talking about sophisticated and unsophisticated women, and
I think that's a video that because I know his psych background and everything. But even without it, I think that video was pretty reasonable. Everything I was like, this makes sense. Yeah.
Really? Okay. I think considering what you said, and like knowing more about Jordan Peterson's content and some of his own like personal biases, I'm surprised that you're actually willing to take it so, I guess, face value in a way.
I think Peterson, when he's talking politics, he's just a fucking moron. But I think Jordan Peterson probably has some of the best stuff to say and advice relating to women that I think I'd ever heard somebody say online, like pre 2019. He was really good at talking about the differences between men and women when it came to things like negotiations, when it came to things like different big 5 traits that would predispose you to certain things. And he would talk about how in his personal practice, how he would work with women to overcome some of these things. And that if you are a woman, it's good to be aware of like potential deficiencies in certain traits that will hurt you in a workplace, navigating those environments. I thought all of that advice was really good. Now, when he's talking systemically or politically, he's a retard. But his personal advice, I think, was usually pretty on point. And again, if we want to revisit that video about the sophisticated, unsophisticated women, we can go through it if you want. We can watch it now. I'm not doing anything else. But I thought that everything he said was like pretty much on point. Yeah. Do you want? If you want, you can look at it again. And we can.
I'd love to.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you want me to pull it up?
Just shoot me the link again and we can watch it. We can start it at the same time.
Okay. That, I don't want to poison the well too much, but it was interesting because I sent you that and then I ended up watching a little bit back and the discern, like, I was steel manning him, I was steel manning him in my head to try to like not take him out of context. And then I watched back, and it turns out that the biases that I had were completely correct, and like I still manned him, even though he was making the implications I was worried that he was making anyway. So I just thought it was funny that I decided to take him in face value, and he's very good at asking you to take him at face value and then like inserting a bunch of shit in there.
Okay.
But yeah.
Are you? I'm turning this on. Let me know when you're ready to go, and I can start this as soon as you're ready.
I need to watch your stream for this, right?
Or we can just start it at the same time.
No, I'll just watch. It's fine.
Okay, tell me when to stop, and I can start.
Then
this.
I'll just mute the call.
If you want to, okay. I'll watch about 2 minutes of this and things will be blinking. Okay.
Cool.
3, 2, 1, boom.
It's like you're not sophisticated enough to. And I saw this in my clinical practice all the time. You know, I had lots of women in my clinical practice who were abused serially. And, you know, they were generally stunningly unsophisticated in their conduct. And I'm not trying to blame the victim. I'm just saying that sophisticated women, and those are often those they've had a lot of good relationships with men, brothers and fathers in particular. Sophisticated women signal to men who are getting a little pushy, in no uncertain terms, very early in the pushing game, that no is the answer, right? And they do that. If you do that really early on in the investigation, you don't have to use much force. But unsophisticated women, they can't do that at all. They don't know how. And then what happens is they run into an unsophisticated guy. He's too dumb to pick up any clues. And then by the time she really wants to say no, she's already on the bed. I'll give you an example of this. You know, I had one client who was coerced in her account into a sexual encounter by a door-to-door salesman. You know, typical pornographic fantasy setup. So this young guy is going around door-to-door selling whatever he's selling. So he's not one of the world's high-status males, let's put it that way. And, you know, and I suppose he's probably got all sorts of fantasies running through his pornography-addled brain. And so he comes to the door and she's in the house and she's a reasonably attractive young woman and he's friendly. And, well, the first thing she does is invite him in. Now, that's stupid. She's alone. She doesn't know who he is at all. And she invites him in. Well, he thinks, oh my God, what is she at? You know, maybe she really likes me. And you already said that men, and this is especially true if they're narcissistic and immature, radically overestimate the degree to which a woman's attention is signaling sexual availability for obvious reasons. And so he's thinking, oh my God, this is my big chance. And so then he starts to press her and she has no tools at her disposal at all because she has no idea how to signal no. And let's say she's agreeable and neurotic with a bit of a history of abuse. And the next thing she knows, she finds herself on the couch, you know, 3/4 undressed. And then the question is, well, is that rape? And well, then that's the question. That's when the police come in and the lawyers come in and, you know, you spend the next 3 years trying to figure out whether or not that's rape. But it's so my point with all that is that it's an open question how much protection women need from the males around them. And then it's an open question exactly how to construe the crime of irresponsible access to a young woman from a site.
Okay.
Yeah, now it just connects to his point that like making rape as a property crime is better than having rape be a crime against a woman.
Wait. If you're going to summarize it like that, I need to listen to what he actually said. Hold on.
Sure, go back. It's
One
literally
second.
what he said.
Wait, go back? You think he already said that?
He did say that. I
Wait.
can give you the exact timestamp. That was like the... Well, to be fair to Jordan Peterson, he said, we should consider that there were a lot of advantages at making rape... Sorry, I'm being condescending. But yeah, he did say that.
Wait, he hasn't said that in this yet. I need to listen more, right? For him to say that.
You need to go back. He's making the point for it.
Wait, so I listened to him say that?
No. Okay. So this segment that we watched,
Yes.
right, is just him going on a tangent, as he often does, but the greater segment of this video of his was him just making an argument that we should consider that there was value in
okay, I'm going to listen to some of this. 125.50 is rape a property crime?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, give me 1 sec, or give me 2 minutes. I'm listening to this.
To a long-term partnership, obviously, on the male front, because you want to be assured of paternity. And so, you know, these are very intense games that men and women play with each other, and they're no holds barred games because everything's at stake. But again, it devolves down to this issue of being able to say no, even under intense temptation and provocation. So I don't know how it is that we start teaching young women. Well, we can just start by not lying to them about absolutely everything, which is what we do now. But I don't know how it is that young women can be taught that the most potent weapon they have is their ability to say no, you know, and that's actually a weapon of formidable force, and that it does nothing but confer status upon them. You know, and the fact that you said already that what you see is that it's the obviously high status, high desirable women who are figuring this out first is an indication of that, because obviously they're the ones that are going to be able to wield that power in the most effective possible manner. But that doesn't mean that it's not useful for women farther down the hierarchy. And you know, you also said something about women are enjoined to believe they have to be sexually accessible to make themselves successful on the dating market, but I don't believe that's true at all. I think that's a myth. I think that,
sent you the timestamp.
You know, if you have nothing else.
Oh, hold on. Okay, let me listen 1 second.
Well, here's something else that's worth pondering. You know, you talked about one of the advantages of the sexual revolution was the transformation of the idea that rape was a property crime, let's say, into a crime against the woman herself. And I would say, look, I have plenty of sympathy for that perspective. And I think it's fundamentally true. But I'm going to push back because, you know, all this is all very complicated. You know, it isn't obvious to me that offers women enough defense. You know, and so the counter argument might be, if untrammeled sexual access to a young woman is a crime, in order for that to be recognized as a crime properly, it has to be viewed as something that will bring the males on her side to her defense in principle. Now, maybe not, right? Because you could say, well, maybe we could set up a society where merely, quote, transgressing the rights of a woman to say no is sufficient. But it's not obvious to me that that's sufficient. Like, maybe sufficient means not only do you violate the integrity of the woman in a fundamental sense, but you enrage all of her male protectors. And then that's enough of a barrier, because God only knows how much barrier we need. And obviously, well, you just laid out a bunch of problems, especially now that the pill introduces, and we should stress that. The problem that women have in saying no once they're on the pill is that it's instantly personal. And that means the woman has to deliver a pretty hard blow. And that's especially problematic if she's somewhat potentially interested in the guy, right? How do I say no without hurting his feelings, alienating him, making him into an enemy, looking like a prude? And I mean, when you're 16, you don't know the answer to any of those questions. Like, you're not sophisticated enough to. And I saw this in my clinical practice all the time. You know, I had lots of women in my clinic.
Okay, pause it. Wait, so what is he saying that you think is disagreeable here? I'm curious. Hello? Oh, she turned her stuff off completely.
Okay. Do you think that someone can imply or bolster an idea without saying, I support this?
Yeah, of course.
Hello? Yeah. Wait, you can't hear me?
Hello, hello?
Hello?
Okay. Hi, I can hear you now. Your thing was deafened. Okay, what's that? What's the
Sorry.
question? Okay.
Okay. Do you think someone can embolster a point or imply something without saying, I 100% support this point?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. So Jordan Peterson didn't say, I think making rape a property crime against men, rape of women, a property crime against men is what I want. He just said, I'm very sympathetic to the point of rape being a crime against the woman, but I'm not sure that that's good enough to protect women. Do
Okay.
you think that's sincere?
Yes. Compared to the alternative that he like views women as property and he's just masquerading as a psychologist to, yeah, I think what he's saying, everything made sense to me. You can tell me if there's a part that didn't seem, I guess, coherent there, but.
Okay. Very quickly. I understood what he said. So you're saying it's coherent to you that for him, he thinks there's value in making rape a property crime against men?
Property crime against men?
Yes, a woman is being raped, and then you is it persecute or prosecute? Sorry. You prosecute them for doing a property crime against their husband or father.
No. That's not what he's saying at all. What he's saying, no. Hold on. So what he's saying is that for any legal system to carry sufficient weight, you probably need men bought into the system as well. And what he's saying is he's not fully convinced that men are sympathetic to the plights of women when it comes to rape. But men tend to care about property a lot. So if you make rape a property crime, now you've incensed men in that if rape is a property crime, I don't know if I believe this, but this is just what he's saying. He's saying that men would be more invested in the outcomes of rapes if they viewed it as a crime that they had more familiarity with, essentially. It didn't have to do with like a woman gets raped so her husband gets to sue because that's his property. It just has to do with treating your person as property and saying if somebody violates your property, then it counts as a crime, yeah.
So if a woman is being raped, Jordan Peterson's solution is saying instead of it being a violent crime against a human, we should make it a property crime against that woman because that would make men more amicable to it.
Essentially, yes. Yes.
And you think that's what he said?
I know that's what he said. That is what he said.
Then why did he bring up male protectors?
What do you mean bring up male protectors?
He said that, and we can watch it again, but he said that he's not sure that having the concept of like a rape just being a crime against a woman is powerful enough. So what he wants to do is make it a crime that would anger the men in her life.
No. It's not anger the men in her life.
He literally said that.
That's,
I'm quoting.
If you want, we can go back and
yeah.
Okay, we can go back to the specific time if you want. I know what he's saying here. What he's saying is that if rape is treated as rape, which is a thing that generally, the way that it comes out, women deal with generally, that men aren't very emotionally bought into that proposition that rape is bad. That's just not, because it's like a lot of men just can't relate. But if it's a crime against a person, and a person is your property, you are your own property, men do relate more to things like men love talking about, oh my God, if you break into my house, I'm going to shoot and kill you. I'm going to protect my last castle. I'm going to fucking stand my ground. I'm going to shoot and kill. Like, that's a thing that men plug into more. So if rape is treated as property crime, it gets them to buy into the concept more. That's the argument that he's making. Yeah.
So if you would give me 2 minutes to look for the exact quote that I'm looking for, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, it's going to be pretty hard to fight me out of this one, though, because I feel like I understand his point pretty well. And if you're just going to give me like one sentence.
We can rewatch the whole thing again.
We can rewatch. Yeah,
I'm pretty confident about this as well, so I'm not particularly like scared of sitting on this, you know?
Sure.
Cool. Okay. You're waiting for me then?
Yeah, wait, was that...
Watch it.
Oh,
I'm so confused.
Wait, I thought I was waiting for you to give me the quote, which, if I rewatch it, I'm going to come to
You
the
said
same
you
opinion.
didn't want a quote.
I just said that if it's just going to be like a one-line thing where he says something like men in her lives, and you're like, look, he means the men that own her. I'm going to say, no, I don't think that's a fair characterization of what he's saying. But
Okay, I'll watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I'll listen to the whole thing again. Yep, hold on.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, here's something else that's worth pondering. You know, you talked about one of the advantages of the sexual revolution was the transformation of the idea that rape was a property crime, let's say, into a crime against the woman herself. And I would say, look, I have plenty of sympathy for that perspective. And I think it's fundamentally true. But I'm going to push back because, you know, this is all very complicated. You know, it isn't obvious to me that offers women enough defense. You know, and so the counter argument might be if untrammeled sexual access to a young woman is a crime, in order for that to be recognized as a crime properly, it has to be viewed as something that will bring the males on her side to her defense in principle. Now, maybe not, right? Because
Okay, is this the line that you had problems with? Or is that the one that you think is proving your point?
One of them, yeah.
Okay, so he's saying bring the males on her side to her defense in principle. The idea is getting men on board with being like with viewing your rape as something that's bad. That's what he's saying.
Okay, so you're saying he doesn't want it to be a property crime against the men?
No.
He's just saying men don't care about women being raped.
Yes.
But if you tell them it's a property crime, they will care?
Yes.
Okay. Let's say that that's true.
Okay, I think that's, by the way,
I mean,
hold
it's
on, just to
better
be
than
clear,
a property
real quick,
crime
real
thing,
quick.
Yeah,
I would not say this is a charitable reading. I would say this is an obvious reading, in my opinion, but go ahead.
Okay, sure. So every person that I have spoken to, and Sam Cedar made a video about this as well, that wasn't the interpretation that we got. It seemed pretty obvious to a lot of other people.
Well, I understand that because
you're the only smart one.
Peterson breaks a lot of progressive brains, and that he can say 1 + 1 = 2, and there's going to be like 52 video essays about how that's not necessarily true in like non-Euclidean spaces or something. Like,
so
yeah.
You really think that's like that he said 1 + 1 = 2 there?
I think what he just said, I don't know if it's necessarily true, but I understand the validity. The argument is valid. I don't know if the
valid.
Yes, I don't know if the premises are true, but if he's saying that if it is the case that men can relate to property crime more than they can to the sexual assault of a woman, then making rape a property crime is more likely to have men come to the defense, like judicially or societally, for women when it happens. That's the argument he's making. That's plainly obvious to me.
Do you think it's possible that in the same way that you criticize people for having biases that obscure them, you might also have that issue with this?
Hold on. Okay, wait. Oh, shit. Hold on. Sorry. I got triggered. Let me... Give me a minute.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. Don't worry. It's all good. Let me... If you're going to claim that I have a bias, I think you're going to have to point in the text to something that I'm missing or interpreting incorrectly. I think my interpretation is strong, and I think I can support it with the text. If you want, we can go through the transcript and we can both write like a 2-paragraph thing on supporting each of our arguments. If you want to do that, I have nothing going on today. I can do this if you want to do it. Well, I have to do
that.
Huh? Okay. Let me see if I can load the transcript for this.
Just to make very clear.
Yeah.
Are we doing this to prove that one of us is right, or to prove that both of our interpretations are valid?
I don't believe your interpretation is valid. I don't think it can be supported at all.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Then I can take that challenge. So, do I just look at the transcript and do
Yeah,
this,
I'm gonna copy paste it for you in a second. Okay, hold on.
Cool.
Yeah. Which is a painful thing to
Because
deliver.
that's the only excuse you have left.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Okay, here you go. Okay, this is the text, okay? Okay, what is your like thesis? What do you think he's saying? Tell me this real quick.
Okay. Do you want to just go over it line by line?
No, I just want you to
say,
tell me so that when I'm going to write something real quick, and then but I want you to tell me what your thought is, so I know what I'm arguing against real quick. I think I know. I just want you to state it again for me.
My interpretation of the entire thing was that Jordan Peterson was either implicitly or explicitly saying that there would be value in making rape of a woman a property crime against the men in her life.
Wait, but you don't... Wait, say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Okay. My argument is that Jordan Peterson, in that entire paragraph, either implicitly or explicitly was making an argument for the benefits, maybe that helps, of making a rape of a woman a property crime against the men in her life.
When you say against the men in your life... Hold on, I'm sorry, hold on, one second, hold on. I'm sorry, hold on, give me 1 second. Destiny, and it clarifies literally his position in an instant unless you think Jordan Peterson is a liar. If you're tasked with writing an argumentative essay, given the text, you can't pull in outside stuff, right? That's why I'm not going to his other tweets or whatever. I think you can justify what he's saying in the text. That's why I'm not linking external tweets and go, oh, look, I'm right. Because there could be another tweet that says something different, but that's not relevant to the conversation we're having. Hi, sorry, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you think he's saying that, the thrust of your argument is that you think that he's saying that he just wants like men that own her or what?
Basically, yeah, reverting back to a time when a woman was a man's property, and then if you infringe on the woman, you are doing a property crime against the man.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Give me 1 second, okay?
No problem.
Okay, give me, okay, I've read this, I've absorbed this into my brain. Okay, I see it now. Can you give me your justification from the text where you feel like he's making the argument that she doesn't have any bodily autonomy? Because you're making a few claims. He wants women, or he's arguing women should be the property of men.
Wait. Just very quickly.
Yeah.
Are we removing the whole bullshit about he didn't actually say? Are we addressing what he implicitly is saying or what he implicitly argues for, or because if not, then you're saying that I'm saying that he said that. Jordan Peterson is very good at avoiding accountability. So he said,
hold on. I think
there's
you guys,
an argument for this.
Yeah. Okay. I think you guys have a problem where you see ghosts everywhere when it comes to Jordan Peterson. Instead of just taking him at face value, you're the one that's making the implication. That's what I have to. You're the one so if you want to go without implication, you ought to lose the argument, right? Well, I'm trying to find out where he's actually saying.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm not you guys.
Well, when I say you guys, I'm saying like you're using things that I've heard progressives say in the past to avoid ever engaging with anything Jordan Peterson says. That he's very good at not taking accountability. Yeah, but that's not. That's
I understand, but I feel like that's unfair towards me because I'm willing to do this exercise with you. And I even said, I'm gonna say, if you can say that these both arguments are valid, I think that's a very charitable interpretation, but I'll take it. You're the one that's saying that my interpretation is invalid.
Yeah, because I don't think there's anything here to support that he's saying women ought to be the property of men.
He would never say that. What he said is there were advantages, right? He says it's worth pondering the advantages before the sexual revolution.
And what
the transformation of rape being a property crime to a crime against the woman herself. This is all from the transcription.
Okay.
So are we both on board that, I don't know if it was before the sexual revolution, he doesn't like the pill, whatever. Are we both on board that in the past, women were men's property and infringing on a woman was infringing upon a man's property?
Sure.
Awesome. So I feel like when he's saying one of the things that happened after the sexual revolution was the transformation from property infringement to rape being an offense against the woman herself. And this is all from the transcription.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. I see how you're reading it. I'll upgrade it to impossible to just incredibly uncharitable. but I guess I can give you that.
Okay. So, do you
Wait, hold on.
want
Let me
to
just read. I'm
continue?
just rereading the end of
Okay.
this one. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'll upgrade it to uncharitable, but go for it.
Okay. So, do we have to continue, or can I just address the uncharitable?
We can go wherever you want from here.
Cool. Can you just say that my interpretation isn't invalid then, just so I can have?
Well, that's why I said
it.
I upgraded you to uncharitable. I think it's an uncharitable interpretation.
Thank you. Okay, then my job here is done. No, I'm kidding. Okay, cool. Do you think it's still uncharitable if I know Jordan Peterson's content, and in that, with that context in mind, like you argued earlier, that depending on what you know about this person's opinion, you might have more inferences into what they're actually saying. Do you think it's still uncharitable of me? I guess you would say that because you think all of my interpretation of his other content is also skewed. Is that what you're going to say?
If there was other content where Jordan Peterson is talking about or advocating for or making claims that women would be better off being property of men, then I would be more amenable to that position, but I'm not aware of that content.
Okay, so you don't think that if I generally could prove that Jordan Peterson has an issue with misogynistic ideas and a certain reverence to the patriarchy, that wouldn't be enough for me to infer that he could make the argument that women being men's property would be better for women?
No, that's way too detached.
Detached. Okay.
That, like, maybe some of the things I think he said in the past might have been misogynistic, therefore he's talking about how women should be property now or something. That's way too much.
That's not what I said.
Okay.
Right?
If we can point to like something a little bit more specific where he said in the past, like, well, women, you know, when they're property of men, things go way better, et cetera, et cetera. If he says things like this a lot, then I'm probably okay, yeah, that maybe that's kind of what he's pushing at here. But
so reverence to the patriarchy is not enough as well.
No.
Okay. So this is where, and again, I'm enjoying this conversation, so try to not get triggered right now.
Trying my hardest.
But, okay, don't you think that if you're going to say that I'm uncharitable, you're being unbelievably charitable to the point of bias?
I don't know. I don't think so. Here's my issue. In analyzing all of this, has he said anything wrong?
Well, he couldn't have said anything wrong because he just said, "Let's think about this idea," right?
Well, no, he made a lot. He made a couple of claims in here. He asked us to consider some things.
Okay. Okay. I actually like that you're asking this. I think that he's wrong to say that women would be safer. Wait, are we working off the assumption that we're doing property of men right now? Are we just considering that for the sake of the argument?
Let's just consider it a property rights thing, because I think your body could be your property.
Matters
That's what I'm saying. Let's just do where he's assuming that like your body is your property and you have like property rights or whatever about it.
Okay. I feel like that weakens my argument, but I feel like I could still make.
Okay, let's do property rights then. Let's just do full on property rights. Is he saying anything incorrect? Let's like lower the woman as the property of the man.
Okay. If he's saying that the woman is the property of the man, and that somehow grants extra defense to women, that implies that currently the law says you cannot rape women because that's a violent crime. Well, it says you can rape, but yeah, so it's a violent crime. And he's saying if we changed it to how actually it's not a violent crime, it's just a property crime against men, rapists would be less inclined to rape, not because it's illegal, because they're both illegal, but because it's like a social pressure from not to anger the men. And that would protect women.
Yes.
You think that's valid?
What do you think? I'm asking you, don't do that. I'm asking you if you think it's invalid. Tell me why. Don't just ask me incredulously and then move on.
What's incredulously?
Incredulously, because that statement seems self-evident to me. But it seems
okay.
it's rough.
So-
but like, for instance, like if I ask, like, let's take like a racist white man in the South and bring back slavery. Is a racist white man in the South more likely to protect his slave than he would be like a random black person on the street? The answer to that is probably yes. But I mean, like, it's obviously that's like it's a very extreme example. But yeah, go ahead. But tell me if you think it's wrong.
Example? Okay.
No. Let's stick with the ownership of the women one. Go ahead.
No, of course. I'm just saying that, like, my way of saying why it's not self-evident is to, like, throw at you a bunch of, like, examples for how that would not protect women.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. So, if a woman is 90 years old and she doesn't have a husband or dad, what men are in her life supposed to be threatening her rapists?
Probably none, I would imagine. Or family members, I guess.
So that doesn't protect her more, right?
Sure.
Okay, cool. That's example number one. What about lesbian women?
Probably
Are they
also
still
not protected.
owned by their dad?
Probably not protected, yeah.
Okay. Should I give more? You see where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, I think you're making a really good point right now.
Thank you. And this is not addressing.
Yeah, that's
not
fine.
addressing the thing that really matters to me. That is, like, I find it very morally abhorrent to claim that.
Sure, but we're not doing because the morally abhorrent stuff is the most thought terminating, brain dead shit in the world to go with any of these arguments. What you just brought up were really good points, though. Screaming this sounds like, oh, morally abhorrent. Like, no one cares. It's so boring. But saying that, like,
can I ask you something?
Yeah.
So I get that this is how you get your content, but, like, I've engaged completely with, like, trying to make the arguments that you want to make. So, like,
sure.
When I just say, hey, I also think this is morally bad, like, this isn't me falling into the stereotype of whatever you want me to be. I just, like, it was important for me to say.
Sure, I understand you're saying that, but when you say something is morally abhorrent, all we're doing is hardcore begging the question. What we're saying is not persuasive to anybody, and it only signals to an audience that already agrees with us that we're on their side. That's why, like, if I'm making an argument about something, I've never been like,
explain to you why it's morally abhorrent, but I think you know why.
Yeah, but I don't care because you're going to explain it to me, but I already agree with you, right? You're not going to explain it to somebody that thinks that women should be property and then get them to agree with you because they're going to say, oh, well, I disagree fundamentally. Men and women are different. Women are the property of men. They're like, there's that.
Well, I would, but okay.
Okay.
Let's go back to when let me just finish this point,
please. Okay,
yes,
holy
yes,
shit.
Yes.
The argument of Jordan Peterson is making the argument that if women were property, it would protect them more from rape and sexual assault, okay? You bring up a really good counterpoint.
Yes.
You bring up a good counterpoint that there are some women in society that fundamentally lack that male protection. Maybe older people that are widows that don't have husbands anymore. Maybe women that are not in relationships, or maybe women in relationships with other women. That's a really good counterpoint to what he's saying, and it would further the conversation. That'd be interesting. All I was saying is saying, like,
also women who are ostracized from the men in their lives.
Yes. All I'm saying is that saying something is morally abhorrent that's not like an argument or response to anything. It's just like I just want you guys to know I'm on your side. I'm just saying it. That's the only reason I said that. The other points you brought up were good points. Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. What's the next part you want to go to?
Okay, so we said that. So you asked me, is there anything wrong about what he's saying? Like, is he wrong?
Sure. And you just brought up 3 counterexamples. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other things I can think about in this part, because I actually sent you the sophisticated, non-sophisticated bullshit, which comes after this. But in terms of the whole, like, property discussion, yes, there's, let me go over it in my head. There's the argument that some women do not have the protection of men. There's the moral argument that you don't want to talk about, that law and, like, we say that women deserve protection whether or not men like them or not. Do I have any more arguments that aren't moralistic? Yeah, I guess it just confuses me. What would be the point of having law then? Because if we're just counting on the social pressure of men protecting the women in their lives, we can just have it so rape isn't illegal and just have it so whenever a woman is raped, the men in her life just go and execute the rapist. We don't need law.
My feeling, if I'm thinking of these things in principle, then the feeling isn't necessarily just having men personally in your life to go beat up people that are raping people. It's more broadly speaking, it's the idea that men in society having a buy-in to that particular topic means that you're more likely to see enforcement across the board because it's a thing that men will care about.
Okay. And again, I will just say, now you're not saying, oh, from the text that he's saying it's self-evident. Like, you're doing a lot of stretching here.
Well, he literally used the expression "in principle." I think he says that will bring the males on her side to her defense in principle.
Yes, and you're saying, and this is, I thought we already agreed on this, but you think that the in principle is men care about property rights, because capitalism brain rot, I guess, or something. And my
property
argument
has existed way before and after.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Oh my god. Okay.
I know you made a random capitalism. Okay, sure, that's fine. Well, you're not going to
make any joke.
Okay,
whatever.
Thank you.
It's like, geez, you are such a triggered. It's fine. I won't joke. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So you're saying it's about caring about property rights, like men care about that generally more than rape, and I'm saying men care about their property rights being infringed upon. So I guess that would just be like a fundamental disagreement that we have on that, which I thought we already like summarized.
Sure. Okay. Well, what's that next part?
Next part in this, or what? Do you want to go back to the clip I actually sent you that we were meant to talk about?
Yeah, if you want to, sure.
The sophisticated one?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I guess the point, like if I were to conclude anything, is that the point that I'm trying to make is that earlier we talked, and you said that when Myron says something, you're going to push back hard because you know Myron, you know what he's probably going and what he's trying to say. And you know Brittany, and you know she's going, what she generally has in her head. So I think that considering, and I get that maybe you think it's invalid because you think progressives or leftists have like brain rot around Jordan Peterson. But if we just assume for a second that they are actually correct and he's a misogynist that reveres the patriarchy and wants to preserve it, that means that when you're there saying, well, this one thing that he said is correct, it might even be technically correct. I mean, when he tells you to make your bed, yes, that is a good advice. But generally speaking, when you support individual things out of context that he said, that does support like a greater narrative, especially if he uses those certain things, right? Like if you take this statement that he made and it has two valid interpretations, like you and I said, and then you say there was nothing wrong about what he said, to people like me, that sounds like you're okay with, you think it would protect women better if they were men's property.
Okay. This is okay. I think this mental gymnastics thing can only happen like on Twitter or in hardcore academia. I think that to most normal people, so here, this is like what's happening in your mind. You're saying that if you agree with statements that Jordan Peterson makes, even if those statements on their face are correct, you really have to take into account his full body work and understand that by endorsing some statements that might be correct, you might also lead people into...
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh my God. Okay. Restate it.
Okay. I'm saying, if you take statements that Jordan Peterson is making at face value, while ignoring that he might making those exact statement with some implicit implications, that is what bothers me.
Okay, right? You just restated exactly what I was going to say. You're saying that we need to take into account the full context of everything Jordan Peterson is saying, because when you agree with some of his statements, there's going to be other times where he's making similar statements with statements like that, where he's like explicitly calling for way more misogynistic action, right?
Okay, I see why you think it's the same. Okay, I'll agree
tell
with
me
that,
why.
just
Okay.
for the sake.
My problem is every single person on the outside is going to look at somebody saying something that's obvious, and then you're going, well, no, I can't agree with that. That's wrong. And then nobody's going to want to listen to what you're saying. When I say you, I mean broadly speaking, like progressives. I think that's a huge issue that's going on, that people will say things like black people commit more crime than white people, or women tend to be weaker than men, or trans women are different than cis women. People will say things like this, and the argument is always like, well, no, actually all of the police statistics are biased, so that's not true. Well, no, actually, women can be just as strong as men. Well, no, actually, there's like a caveat for every single thing, and I think
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Okay. So when somebody says 1350, for example, first of all, do you think that's a dog whistle or not?
Yeah.
Just so I can know.
Yeah, it can be.
Okay, sure. So let's say that there was a time where that statistic happened. I know there's some, whether it's like a consistent statistic or just like, okay, well, and let's not do the 1350. Just black people in the United States do more crime, okay? When somebody says that, face value, it is a correct statement.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting to say, face value, it's correct. What's the issue? When you're a smart person, so you know that most people who say that statement immediately follow with, and therefore we should ... and it's almost never good for black people.
Sure, but I understand what you're saying.
Can I just finish my point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I'm saying that certain thing, when people say something, whether it's true or not, I'm asking myself, why are they saying this? And some of the times, and I'm not here to defend all progressives, I am myself. I think for myself, whether you or your audience believe that or not. And so sometimes I believe a person said something because they're trying to further a certain idea or agenda. And in that case, I'm not going to say that they are wrong, but I'm going to challenge what they're saying.
Okay. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. The problem with that is what I said before, is the impression to every single person on the outside is that you're running from the truth because you're trying to obscure the truth. That's the issue that you run into when you run away from dog whistles. I think rather than running from dog whistles, you should just accept that the statement is true, accept it on its face, and then push on the prescriptions that somebody makes after. 1350.
I agree with you.
Right, let me finish, please. Okay. You don't agree with me because that's not what you said. You just said the exact opposite thing. You said that if you think that somebody has a bad intention or a bad prescription in mind at the end of it, that you're going to push back the entire time. You gave the exact opposite answer. Okay? So what I'm telling you is no, if somebody says 1350 or if somebody says some other dog, we say, okay, yeah, that's true. That is true. What do you want to do about it? And then you move on to the next part of the conversation and then you fight there. You don't fight them descriptively on every single point they're making down the road because all that does is it gives the impression to everybody on the outside that, wow, this person is afraid of the truth. This person is pro-censorship. This person is somebody that's trying to hide what's reality, and then you lose all credibility, and then the dog whistlers win.
So, I misspoke if I gave you the impression that when I said I will fight them, I meant I will deny that black people do more crime statistically. I meant that I would be concerned about the implications that they're saying. Because I think pointing out dog whistles is pointless and a waste of time, and you should just engage with people trying to imply that that means we should do X, Y, and Z.
Okay, if you agree with that, then we agree fully. But it sounded like you said literally the exact opposite thing earlier. But if that's what you agree with, then I agree with what you're saying, sure.
Then as I said, if I gave you that impression, then I misspoke. That's not what I meant.
Okay.
Cool. So we agree on that. Do you want to do the unsophisticated bullshit?
Go for it, yeah.
Awesome. that was a while ago. So we watched that part. Do you want to pull the transcript on it? Oh my god.
You can give me your impression of it, and we'll see where we disagree.
Okay, let me try to remember my exact critique on that. I was ignoring how weird it is to call it sophisticated and unsophisticated. Yeah. I guess, do you remember that video, generally speaking?
Didn't we just watch it? Am I crazy?
We did. I'm just making sure that you remember.
Yes, I watched
okay,
it, yeah.
cool.
Okay, go ahead. I do remember.
Good. Because you said that you remembered the stealthing thing, and then you did. Okay, sorry. Okay. I think in some situations, what he said is pretty valid.
Okay.
There are absolutely times where some women lack the tools to properly set boundaries. and that can cause situations where they would be harmed at all, or more significantly, if they had more appropriate tools.
Okay.
100%. That was not the only thing he said, though. He made a pretty general, sweeping statement. And I thought especially was interesting the example that he gave about, like, the delivery guy at the door, and then, like, a quarter hour later or 45 minutes later, she's half naked on the couch because she was unsophisticated and didn't have the tools to say no. And then he says, "Is that rape?" ? Which I thought was hilarious.
Why is that hilarious?
Okay, well, let me tell you. Let's say there's a delivery guy at the door.
Yes.
And I think, oh my God, I can make a porn out of this.
Wait.
And I invite him in.
No.
And I want to have sex.
Wait. Hold on. No, wait. Hold on, because you're going to waste a whole bunch of time going down. Do you think he's saying in his mind that that the woman is trying to recreate a porn?
No, I'm not saying that. This is just my way of being flavorful. Why don't you listen to me?
Okay, sorry, go ahead, be flavorful. Just don't make any capitalism jokes, go ahead.
Thank you. So, okay. Okay. Somebody knocks at the door, it's a delivery boy. I think he's cute. I'm like, I'm down to fuck. Okay. Hey, come in. We start making out. I'm on the bed. I'm half naked. And then I realize that I'm hungry and I've decided I don't want to fuck.
Okay.
And now we're exactly in the same position as Jordan Peterson's story, except that in my story, I was into it until I'm not. And in his story, she was never into it.
Okay.
So now, if we keep going and I inform him that we keep going, is that rape?
Like if you tell him, stop, I want to go eat?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, it is rape, not
yeah.
Probably, but okay. So basically my question is that, considering the example Jordan Peterson is giving, I'm confused about, like, what is the implications?
Wait, in Jordan Peterson's example, the girl never says no? No?
Well, we don't know. He gave a vague example, right?
The whole point of his argument was that the woman was too unsophisticated and didn't lack the tools to stop the interaction once it had gotten off the tracks.
Well, no, actually. His whole point is that sophisticated women stop the interaction very early on before the pushing game starts.
Yes.
And that is the issue that I take. Because we can talk about situation... Because the distinction that he's making between sophisticated and unsophisticated is women who are saying very early on, no, don't do this because we don't want men to push, right? But this doesn't address situations where you are going and things are murky.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't address every single situation ever, of course. It's not meant to address every single situation or what it's like to stop a sexual interaction in the middle. That's not what he's addressing here. That's not what the conversation is about.
Can you pinpoint it to me then, what he's exactly addressing?
I haven't seen this full video. I've only seen the parts that you sent me, but it sounds like in this video, what he's talking about is what is necessary to protect women in society from getting raped. And then he's giving the example that just giving women full autonomy and allowing them to dictate the terms on their own doesn't work necessarily all the time, because when unsophisticated women and unsophisticated men come together, it's easy for the man to push that into an interaction that is unfavorable to the woman. That's what it sounds like he's saying. That's what I got from it.
Okay. But basically, what he's saying... Okay.
Wait, can you tell me if you disagree with anything that I just said there, or something there seems off or wrong?
Yeah, I was going to ask you for a minute so I can ask myself that question.
Okay.
I agree with what you said. I disagree that that was the only thing that was conveyed through his speech.
What else do you feel he conveyed?
Okay. Whew. Jordan Peterson, for example, gives an example about, about abused women and how he worked in his clinic with a lot of unsophisticated women, quote unquote, and they were being abused repeatedly. And basically his argument is that potentially if they were sophisticated women, they would be abused less.
Yes, this is like my stealthing argument going back to that, where I tweeted at that one woman that if you've been raped like 4 times in a row, you should probably stop having casual sex, essentially, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, now you triggered me. Can I ask you something about that?
Go for it.
Okay. What is your prescription if she was raped 4 times, but it wasn't because she was having casual sex?
Whatever she's doing probably needs to stop, because you're probably a huge outlier at that point if you've gotten raped 4 times by the time you're 23, 24 years old. Something is bad in your behavior, or hold on, sorry, that sounded like victim blaming. You're making suboptimal choices, and you're selecting for something that's not good, and you need to figure out how to not select for that.
Okay. Do you know that statistically a woman who is raped once is likely to be raped more than once?
Are you saying that it is the case if they're raped once, they're likely to be raped more than once?
I think what I read, and I can pull it up, is 1 out of 2 women who were raped would be raped at least once more.
That isn't surprising to me, yeah. I think that coincides with what I feel and with what Jordan Peterson is saying, yeah.
Okay, so you feel like that statistic actually emboldens your argument that when that something is happening with these women, that they end up in situations that make them more vulnerable to that happening.
That would be my guess, yeah.
Okay. Whew. Let me think how I want to respond to that. Do I even want to touch that? Just give me 30 more seconds. I need to think.
No problem.
So if we say that 1 out of 6 women is raped.
I don't know if that stat is true, but I'll grant it to you. Go ahead. That's like
that is my charitable one.
Sure.
I had 3 sources. One of them says 1 out of 6, 1 out of 5, and 1 out of 4. So
the 1 out of 6 one comes from like
a
a college campus, and I think it includes like sexual assaults as well. But it's fine. Go ahead.
I can give you that source.
Sure.
If you
I'll grant it to you. I don't care. Just go ahead. But I want to make my position known. Okay. I'm not a believer, but go ahead.
Okay. If 1 out of, let's say 8, 1 out of 8 women is raped, and then 1 out of 2 women who were raped, it will be raped at least once more.
Okay.
Is it legitimate to call that an outlier?
By definition, it sounds like you're telling me, statistically speaking, if you've been raped 1 time, you're more likely to get raped again than by somebody who hasn't been raped before. So, by definition, it seems like a person that has been raped is in some way has a disposition. Now, that could be environmental, it could be choices, it could be a whole bunch of things, but that person somehow has a disposition towards being raped a second time. That's what it sounds like based on the stat you just gave me. I don't know if that stat is true, but you've given it to me, but it seems to say that.
I can send you all of the stats that I'm using.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to fight with that stat because it feels to me like it's bolstering my argument, so I'm waiting for you to tell me how it's not.
Okay, so I think the argument I'm trying to construct is that because rape is so common, it would be a bit strange to say that, like, if rape is incredibly prevalent, and by incredibly prevalent, I mean, let's say 1 out of 8 women, which is really high. Do you disagree with that?
I don't,
but
I mean, like, or no,
Okay.
I think that is a lot, but like the question, before you go on, my question is going to be, it's 1 out of 8 women getting raped. What's happening with the other 7? Are they just really lucky?
Yes, that would be my argument.
Okay, that sounds...
Well, that's a bit reductionist.
Well, okay.
I'd say they are either really lucky, really privileged, or they are limiting themselves in a lot of ways.
You don't think that feels a little disempowering?
What do you mean?
That the only way to not get raped as a woman is to just be lucky?
I agree that it's disempowering, but weren't you the one? Okay, so I'm looking at statistics and I'm drawing off of like experiences that I've had and that I've talked to women about, right? So that's what I'm going off of. And so earlier you talked about if you're going to see something that is just true, you're not going to say it's not true just to, I don't know, make a point or to make yourself feel better. So statistically, if you're not raped or sexually assaulted or whatever the fuck, you're pretty lucky. Yeah.
Well, no,
That's
depends on how you read that. Right now, it's because more people don't get raped than get raped, right? And also, we're not talking about just a stat. Now we're looking for an explanation of the stats, right? There is no stat. Well, we'd have to do like a more sophisticated data analysis to prove who's getting lucky versus unlucky. But it's not like saying that like 1 out of 6 women get raped, therefore you're just lucky to not get raped, right? Like I could probably give you stats on drunk driving, but it's not like whether or not you get into a drunk driving accident is just whether you're lucky or unlucky. It probably has to do with whether or not you're drinking and driving, right?
Okay. Well, let me then clarify. There are demographics that are more likely to experience sexual violence than other demographics.
Okay.
To say that that has to do with their behavior is a bit questionable. If you want me to list some of those demographics, I can.
Well, so Jen, just to clarify, to get the other understanding, you're saying that there are no behaviors that can increase or decrease the likelihood of you being assaulted?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, that's basically like the logical conclusion of what you're saying, but tell me why not. Or I'll rephrase real quick. You're saying that like whether or not you get raped or don't get raped is a matter of luck. And that if it's a matter of luck, then
not just. That's not. I've corrected myself.
Okay.
I think it's absolutely a matter of luck, but there are also factors that affect that. One of them is your behavior. Another one is your circumstances. There are a few others. But yeah, luck is also involved, obviously.
Sure. Okay. Well, if that's your position, then you've come around. Now this is my position exactly. So now you agree with me.
Okay. I think that's true. But I think where we differ is that I think you expect potentially more for people to take actions that you believe would really reduce their likelihood of experiencing sexual violence. And I am dubious about whether or not those actions really hold the weight that you believe that they do.
What are some actions that you think I've recommended that you don't think would be protective at all? I'm curious.
Wouldn't be protective at all. I think everything could be protective. So
protective. When I say protective, I'm using that word to mean that this is an action you could take that would reduce the likelihood of you being raped or assaulted. So do you think I've given advice or I've said these are some things you can do to prevent or reduce the likelihood of you getting raped? Do you think there are statements I've made where that's just not true?
No, that's not what I'm saying, right? I don't know all the statements that you made, but I assume every statement that you made about something that could reduce your likelihood of getting experiencing sexual violence is true. I'm saying my critique, or I guess my contention, is that, again, okay, can I just use an example? Or do you want me to complete that sentence?
Knock yourself out. Example away. Go for it.
Okay. Do you agree that if all women stayed at home, that would reduce the likelihood of them not being sexually assaulted?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Would you recommend that?
No.
Okay. That is basically an extreme example and a nutshell of my general critique.
Sure. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to circle back now, and I'm going to ask you then, do you feel like I've given some piece of advice that is unreasonable? Where I've said something like, women, just stay home. Have I ever given a piece of advice that maps onto that?
No. I do think, however, that from the way that you speak, you put a lot of weight on the concept of casual sex in terms of a preventative measure. More weight than it deserves.
No, I love casual sex. and I don't want people to stop having casual sex. I don't put any weight on it at all. And most of the advice I give is usually to facilitate more casual sex, because I think everybody should be fucking. But it's usually to do it in a safer manner. So here's an example. And if you think of one I didn't bring up, tell me. Here are some examples of advice I give. 1, don't have a stranger, somebody you're meeting for the first time, pick you up in their car. 2, don't ever meet somebody at a place you're unfamiliar with. Go to a public place that's somebody you're familiar with. Meet somebody for coffee or lunch or something in a public area. 3, give a friend an address. If you're going to go hang out with a guy or spend the night somewhere, give a friend an address. Tell him to check on you at midnight to make sure everything is okay. 4, don't ever bring a guy back to your house, ever. There's no reason to do it. Find a cheap hotel or someplace like that to meet if it's somebody that you don't know or somebody new. 5, don't do illegal substances. I shouldn't say illegal. Don't do any like mind-altering substances with somebody for the first time that you're with them. Or if you are going to go out drinking or something, do it in a relatively public area. Keep your drink covered. Like, these are pieces of advice that I would give. Is there anything here that feels like really restrictive or unfair or like, oh my God, it's crazy that you would ever tell a woman to do that?
Well, it's not about restrictive, right? Because all of those things are like valid advice. But let me ask you a question then. If a person has experienced sexual violence and they did not engage in one of those advices that you had given, you would say that what?
Next time do this so you can reduce the likelihood of you being assaulted or attacked.
Okay. So that's fine. But then if that happens more, you would identify a pattern that they have?
If they're going out, they're getting raped over and over and over again, I'd be like, yeah, you probably need to chill.
Getting raped. Oh my God.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's happening over and over again, you're selecting for something that's not normal, right? You're part of the 1 out of 8 instead of 7 out of 8. So you need to figure out how to not be in that 1 out of 8.
Is that just in terms of casual sex?
I mean, it could be in terms of relationship sex, but relationship sex and getting raped in a relationship is that's a whole different ballgame, right? Like, I'm not going to give you the advice of like, don't go home with your husband or meet your husband in a public area or phone. Like that doesn't work at that point. Then it gets into a more So no, all the advice I just gave there was, well, because initially you said that I seem to blame a lot on casual sex, and most of the advice I give is actually centered around casual sex. So
yes.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say that you blame casual sex. I said that I feel like you put a lot more weight on how casual sex increases the prevalence of sexual violence than what it actually does. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh. Yeah, maybe. I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm not sure if that's true or
I
not.
can even demonstrate why that's true.
Why? Wait. Why I made that statement? Because I think I probably could have made that statement. It seems logical to me that more casual sex, more people having sex in general, probably means there's more people getting sexually assaulted. Just by running the numbers, it'd be my guess. But
yes, but statistically, what is the? Can you give me 1 second? Because I don't want to misquote this.
You have all the seconds you need. Okay.
I might need more than 60, but I will find it. I actually have it open, don't I? Because I prepped for this. More than 1 in 3 women in the United States have experienced rape, physical violence, and/or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime.
Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. Wait. Say that thing again.
More than 1 in 3 women in the United States have experienced rape, physical violence, and/or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime.
Okay.
Stalking does skew this, though.
Yeah. So this is a sexual assault. Like if I walk into the kitchen one day and I smack Melina on the ass and she's like, "Hey, I'm not in the mood right now." I'm like, oh, "Okay." Like, was that sexual assault? Would that get included in this? I'm not sure. But go ahead. I'll follow with what you're saying. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't feel like that's exactly what you can read out of that. But
well, I don't know if there are metrics for methodologies for considering sexual assault. If it's like a reported thing, right? But I'll be charitable and I'll just assume it is. But go ahead. What's your point?
So basically, my point is that, of course, if nobody had casual sex, there'll be a lot less rape. But there would still be a significant amount of rape because a lot of rape happens inside intimate partner relationships.
It could be. My guess is going to be that...
Wait. The only point I'm making is that in the current discourse that we're having on YouTube and Twitch, it's much easier to focus on like casual sex because there's easy advice you can give and just tell women, hey, if you do this, you're
okay, this is not relevant to what we're making. Okay, back to what you were saying before. Okay. It is possible. It is possible that there is that rape and sexual assault occurs within the confines of a relationship. I'm not going to deny that, of course. But I find it hard to believe that there was more going on when people had fewer sexual partners than now when people have more sexual partners. Because it feels like more sexual partners, just by running the numbers, you're more likely to run into an adverse sexual scenario than when you had just a couple sexual partners. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, and my argument that from the statistics that I've looked at, it seems possible that the difference is not as big as you portray it to be.
Okay, I'd be interested in seeing like a stat or number that proves that, but I don't think I've seen any.
I'd love to send it to you.
What do you have? Because it's not what you just described. Doesn't make that argument as strongly as you seem to think it does.
No, I know. I have a few. I was just looking for
Okay.
Do you want me to read you another one then, or I just?
Do you have one that directly plays into this, or?
Let me look.
Or here's a question: if we were to poll women today, do you think that the likelihood of you having a non-consensual sexual interaction increases or decreases with more partners? What do you think?
Wait. I was looking for something, and you speak really fast. So please talk again.
If we were to look at women today and poll them, do you think the likelihood of you having a non-consensual sexual interaction increases or decreases with more partners?
Can you define more partners?
More people whose dicks are around, in and around your body. I mean, what do you mean more partners? More sexual.
Oh, come on.
What do you more sexual partners? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I just mean because a lot of the rape statistics are around like meeting an acquaintance or like having a friend rape you or something like that. So if your sexual partner is someone that you've known for a year, that's different than someone you met on Tinder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was asking, like, if it's just like I fuck 5 dudes a week and I met each of them that day, like on Tinder, versus like if I have 2 fuck buddies that I know for a long time.
I feel I feel okay. Well, that would be. I bet we could Google it and find out.
Okay, you can do that. I was gonna look for my source anyway, so I don't mind you doing that.
Okay, hold on.
But I'm open to that statistic.
Okay. Likelihood of non-consensual sexual interaction versus number of partners. Oh, cool. Do more partners equal more risk? In previous studies on sexual partners, sexual centers was examined as independent risk factors. Sexual victimization among college women. You sampled 335 college women. This study examined the interaction of number of sexual partners, sexual centers on verbal sexual rape. Approximately 32% of the sample reported unwanted sexual intercourse. 6.9% experienced verbal sexual coercion. Experienced both. As the number of sexual partners increased, instances of verbal sexual coercion increased for women low in relational sexual assertiveness, but not for women high in relational sexual assertiveness. A similar relationship was not found for rape among women who experienced both verbal sexual coercion and rape. Increases in number of partners in the context of low refusal and relational assertiveness were associated with increases in verbal sexual coercion and rape. Findings suggest sexual assertiveness is related to fewer experiences of sexual coercion. So this study, if I'm just going by the abstract, seems to say that okay. Well, one claim it's making is that being more sexually assertive decreases the amount of sexual coercion, which is kind of the point that Jordan Peterson was making, that a more sophisticated woman can... What?
I have a way to
Wait,
help
hold on,
us.
wait. Let me just finish reading this, okay? Hold on.
I want to concede your point. Okay, whatever.
Okay, go ahead. If you want to concede the point, I guess go. No, actually, I don't care if you're conceding it, because now I want to know. As the number of sexual partners increased, instances of verbal sexual coercion increased for women low in relational sexual service, but not for women high. A similar relationship was not found for rape among women who experienced both verbal sexual coercion and rape. Increases in number of partners in the context of low refusal and relational assertiveness were associated with increases of verbal sexual. Okay. Wait. Okay, so it seems like an increase in the number of partners. This seems like it's saying it does increase the verbal sexual coercion and rape. It seems like it's associated with an increase. That's what it seems like this says.
Well, luckily,
okay.
I was going to say that I have no problem saying that if you have more partners than less partner, that would increase the likelihood of experience sexual violence. Okay. My argument is that it does not increase it to such a high degree that it is reasonable to give it the focus or attention that we seem to. I have theories of why we do that, but yeah, that's my argument.
Okay, that might be true.
Yeah, for example, we never talk about, I just pulled up this new statistic. It says that 1 out of 10 women have been assaulted by an intimate partner in their lifetime.
Okay.
That's a lot.
True, but that's less than how many have been raped. Because the other numbers you gave me were 1 in 4, 1 in 5, and 1 in 6 or something. If only 1 in 10 are raped by an intimate partner, then it sounds like having everybody just doing intimate partner sex decreases the overall. It's really inappropriate to tie these two stats together because you'd have to do more analysis. But like that like on its face, it seems to say that your chances of getting raped by an intimate partner are far less than.
Yes.
Okay.
But again, since we've already conceded that like the more partners you have, it might increase it. Then let's say. Because the 1 in 6, for example, is a combination of the rape inside intimate partner relationship and the casual sex. So I'm saying that I agree with you that maybe, or not maybe, because I'm conceding your point. So having more partners increases the risk, but I do not believe that it increases it to a point where if we like got rid of casual sex, yes, there'll be less rape, but there'll still be a very high prevalence of it. And
yeah, I don't think
is that we don't talk about that.
Sure, I don't think we shouldn't talk about it because I don't like hiding from problems. I think you probably say that like casual sex brings with it some additional risks. You ought to be aware of those risks. That would be my position on that.
Yeah, of course. I'm just like, and this isn't even like a critique of you. I just have a specific issue with how the space doesn't address like intimate partner rape, for example, which is still 1 in 10 is a lot.
Okay.
And we never address it because there are no easy solutions like don't go into a hotel instead of going into your house. It's a bit more complicated than that.
Sure.
But yeah. Yes. What else do I have for you? Oh my god. This wasn't what I wanted. Okay. Can I ask you some question about progressives now?
Sure thing.
Okay, thank god. Okay. You probably don't remember any critiques that I levied at you, but if you do you think I ever like gave you criticism that was like inappropriate?
That's a weird question. I mean, like, you can make whatever criticism you want. I don't think I'm ever going to think of criticisms like inappropriate.
Okay, so invalid, is that better?
What are you asking me? It's hard. Like, all criticism is valid. If somebody says, Destiny, you should be nicer to people, that's a quote-unquote valid criticism. I wouldn't care to, like, apply it to my life. I don't know what you mean, like, a valid or invalid criticism. If you make a descriptively wrong claim, like, Destiny, your advice made 5,000 women get raped and impregnated by, you know, then I would disagree with that. But like, if you make a criticism, like, oh, like, I think that this type of stuff is harmful to women or progressives, like, it's much harder to say, like, oh, that's invalid critique. I don't know how I would say that's valid or invalid.
Okay. So I'll just move on to my next question then.
Sure.
Can you tell me what are, and if you have, oh my god, this is about the sexual rights. Okay, I'll just ask you this because we were already on topic. Do you have any stated goals about, like, in terms of your discourse around sexual assault and rape and all that kind of stuff? Like, a direct stated goal? Because when I criticized you for the stealthing thing, most of my critique was about how I thought your rhetoric was harmful and contributing to a culture that ends up resulting in bad things for women.
Sure. My
But
position is
if
that...
you tell me that's not my goal and I just want to speak freely, then I can't criticize you for that.
Sure. My position is that I think that women can assert way more agency in how they approach sex, and I think it would dramatically increase the odds of them having positive sexual experiences, or at the very least decrease the chance of them getting raped. And I think that men can do a lot to be more aware of the complicated interactions between women and safety and sexual pleasure and everything during intercourse, such that it would reduce them having negative sexual interactions or them making a woman feel pressured or raped. Yes.
That's not what I asked. Okay, so
my goal is less rape. If that's what if you want like 2 words, less rape is the goal.
Okay, then I'll continue to criticize you.
Okay.
Do you feel like, okay, so a lot of my critique about you has also been that I feel like as a content creator of your size, you have certain responsibilities about things that you say and how you talk about them. So, i.e., a bit like what you and I talked about Jordan Peterson, for example. So
Okay.
I think if Jordan Peterson has, like, harmful ideas and you say, I'm a progressive, for example, but then some of your behaviors or the things that you're saying are giving him legitimacy, then I would see that as a contradiction.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I'll give, if somebody makes a point that I agree with, I'll give them props for the point that I agree with. I usually just go point by point. I try not to like think of like this is a bad person, so I'm never going to agree with anything they say.
Okay. Is there a difference between agreeing with, like, the point that they say and between, like, legitimizing them?
I don't know. I don't care. I don't care about legitimizing people. If somebody's making good points, I'll legitimize them as somebody that makes good points.
Okay. I see. This might be a weird question, but, like, how much do you cater to your chat? If you do.
Not at all. If I did, I would never play League or StarCraft.
Okay. The last question I have is I wanted to talk to you about the panel, the progressive panel that we were both on.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you that I'm going to ask you a question, and you can refuse to answer that because it's me basically using your combative nature to potentially set up a ground for me.
Okay, you can go for whatever you want. Go for it. Knock us out.
Okay. What did you think about Brie?
Brie. Is this the one that you and I were on? Wait, when? Fuck, I don't remember. Which person is this? Sorry.
The one where you fought with President Sunday.
Yeah, wait, who was Brie? Oh, Brianna. Brianna. Okay, sorry, yeah. I mean, I thought she was great. Yeah.
Okay. Did you feel like she made any points?
You gotta do better. I don't know what this question is. Do you feel like she made any points? She made a lot of points.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Are you I think the road that you're walking us down painstakingly slowly is do you feel like Brianna made any good points about critiquing the rhetoric that you use to engage with people, and do you think that you could be
oh god, no, I don't care about that.
Okay, then get to whatever you're going to, because holy shit, these questions are, did Brianna make any points? Yeah, of course she did.
Okay, I did. Whatever, it's fine. You talk a lot about how you don't like purity testing and virtue signaling and all that crap. Mm-hmm. And 2 weeks before the progressive panel, that's exactly what Brianna was doing in terms of the Hogwarts Legacy thing.
Yeah.
So I thought that her coming on the panel and saying that, like, us picking hairs about stuff like that is silly and we should coalition build, when it was in direct contrast to everything she has done until 2 weeks prior, was hypocritical.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that?
Yeah. I made the same thing. I made that statement on stream, actually. I actually made that statement, I think yesterday or the day before. I was talking to, I think, Erudite about her, and I was curious, like, is Brianna trying to make a more, like, effective rhetorical swing or what? And Brianna made a big post on my subreddit trying to explain, I guess, her changing of her rhetoric. So, yeah. But, I mean, I made that same criticism.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. Okay. Good. I don't have anything else. I assume you don't have any questions for me. Oh yeah, I do have a question. Never mind. I'm sorry. I don't care. Sorry. There was a point that you made, or I guess that a lot of people made for you, about how you, first of all, you realized that on that panel when I asked you if you're progressive and you said yes, I wasn't like contesting that, right? Like if you say that you're progressive, then you're progressive.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I just judge you on progressive, what I think are progressive standards then.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I heard a lot of people say that since you do a lot to promote progressive causes, or because you have done a lot for progressivism, that somehow makes you a progressive.
Okay.
And I was wondering, like, if you thought that, for example, if Rupert Murdoch donated a lot to, like, a trans charity and went canvassing in Georgia for, like, a Democratic candidate, that would make him a progressive because he does a lot for progressive causes.
Well, you just said two different things. Does a lot for progressive causes is different than one time they donate and they do a thing. If he started donating a fuck ton to progressive causes and doing things on it, I was like, oh, maybe he's a progressive now. That'd be my guess. If he just does it one time, I'd assume that there was a candidate he was supporting for a particular reason, for some other thing.
I guess what I'm trying to ascertain is, like, if a person has a certain, like, ideology that they believe in, but their actions support a different ideology, what are they? Are they the thing that their actions support, or are they what they believe?
Are they the thing that I don't know how you can believe something and your actions support something different. I don't know what that would look like.
Okay,
like I'm trying to think, like, imagine like Nick Fuentes. Like, imagine we full dox him and we found out he, like, volunteers at, like, a black and underprivileged homeless shelter, like, every single year. I probably wouldn't care about his stated beliefs at all then. I'd be like, oh, wow, this guy's actually, like, a lot different than I thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more about actions for you.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Okay, so, if a conservative figure turns out, and they are generally, like, against, like, gay people, and then you find out that they are gay, and they are secretly married to a gay person or something like that, that would be, like, would that also delegitimize them? Or would that make them pro-gay?
No, because just being gay doesn't necessarily make you pro-gay.
Okay, so for you, generally, it's more about actions.
Yeah, generally. Oh, shit. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, wait. My internet just blipped. Hold on. Give me 1 sec. Okay. Sorry. It's back. I mean, I think we could come up with some, like, very crazy, wacky examples where maybe this wouldn't necessarily hold true. But, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what my response would be.
The reason why I kind of went down this route is because when people told me that you've done a lot for progressive causes and stuff like that, it's like, yes, I believe in that, and I also, like, kind of changed my perspective on some of the stuff I said last year. But I feel like if somebody says that they're a progressive liberal, for example, and they state what they believe in, but then they also do things that I feel like sabotage the cause or that are not as dedicated to the cause, then that's, for me, actions that vote to the contrary. But it is balanced out by a lot of things that you do, I guess. So I just wanted to hear, like, how much that balances out for you. Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I imagine that, like, you could have somebody that's a stated progressive, but they, like, do a bunch of shit that's contrary to the progressive movement, and you'd probably...
Exactly.
Sure, that's possible, yeah.
Okay. That's what I have. Do you have anything?
No. Anything else?
A lot of people told me that it was really funny. A lot of people wanted me to reach out to you and like tell you about all like my mental health stuff because you'd find it interesting, and then I could get an in with you. And I thought that was really kind of yikesy, and I thought it would be funny to tell you that.
Wait, what mental health stuff?
I just like my mental health stuff.
Oh, they wanted you to present yourself as a crazy girl.
I guess they wanted me to tell you some of my history or something like that, and that would like pique your interest or something.
Does it
But
rhyme with ABC?
What rhymes with ABC?
BPD? Yes.
What are you asking me?
Okay. Yeah, that's
Okay.
my community being dumb. Don't worry about it.
Okay, sure. That's funny. Why, do you have a thing with BPD that I'm not aware of?
Sometimes I'm not even aware of it, it's just life.
That's funny. Okay. Then thank you.
Yep, no problem. Have fun. If there's ever anything else, just poke me and we can hop on and we can scream at each other, okay?
Awesome.
All right, have fun. Bye.
Bye.
Jesus. Let me just read this for you. On the sunny first day of seminar, I sat at the end of a pair of picnic tables with nervous, excited 17-year-olds. 12 high school students have been chosen by the Teasers Association through a rigorous application process. The acceptance rate is reportedly around 3%. To spend 6 weeks together taking a college-level course, all expenses paid. The name of this article is A Black Professor Trapped in Anti-Racist Hell by Vincent Lloyd. Written about a week and a half ago. The group reminded me of the heroes of the mysterious Benedict Society books I was reading to my daughter. Each teenager, brought together for a common project, had some extraordinary ability and some quirk. One girl from California spoke and thought at machine gun speed and started collecting pet snails during the pandemic. Now she had more than 100. A girl from a provincial school in China had never traveled to the United States, but had mastered unaccented English and was in love with E.M. Forster. In addition to the seminar, the students practiced democratic self-governance. They lived together and set their own rules. Those first few days, the students were exactly what you would expect. At turns bubbly and reserved, all of them curious, playful, figuring out how to relate to each other and to the seminar texts. 4 weeks later, I again sat in front of the gathered students. Now, their faces were cold, their eyes down. Since the first week, I had not spotted one smile. Their number was reduced by 2. The previous week, they had voted 2 classmates out of the house. And I was next. Each student read from a prepared statement about how the seminar perpetuated anti-black violence in its content and form, how the black students had been harmed, how I was guilty of countless microaggressions, including through my body language, and how students didn't feel safe because I didn't immediately correct views that failed to treat anti-blackness as the cause of all the world's ills. This might be just another lament about woke campus culture and the loss of traditional educational virtues, but the seminar topic was race and the limits of law in America. 4 of the 6 weeks were focused on anti-black racism. The other 2 were on anti-immigrant and anti-indigenous racism. I am a black professor. I directed my university's Black Studies program. I lead anti-racism and transformative justice workshops, and I've published books on anti-black racism and prison abolition. I live in a predominantly black neighborhood of Philadelphia. My daughter went to an Afrocentric school, and I'm on the board of our local black cultural organization. Like others on the left, I had been dismissive of criticisms of the current discourse on race in the United States. But now my thoughts turn to that moment in the 1970s when leftist organizations imploded, the need to match and raise the militancy of one's comrades, leading to a toxic culture filled with dogmatism and disillusion. How did this happen to a group of bright-eyed high school students? The Teasers Association maintains a low profile, even in higher education circles, but it has played an important role in shaping the U.S. elite. Its alumni are ideologically diverse, queer theorists Eve Sedgwick and post-colonial theorist Gayatri Spivak, its first female member. Georgia politician Stacey Abrams and journalist Walter Isaacson, neoconservatives Paul Wolfowitz and Francis Fukuyama, who served on Telluride's board. Launched by mining entrepreneur L.L. Nunn in 1911, a few years before he founded Deep Springs College, Telluride aims to cultivate democratic communities among high school and college students. It runs houses near Cornell and the University of Michigan, where students receive scholarships, govern themselves, and incorporate intellectual life and service work into their residential communities. In 1954, Telluride started its high school summer program. Over the years, faculty from many leading U.S. universities have taught for the program. Courses have changed with the times. Conflicting ideals of communism and democracy was taught in 1956. The professor Robert Nozick taught philosophical conceptions of liberty in 1965, and in more recent years, topics have included gods and heroes of the Celts and Vikings, public poetry in a digital world, literature, literatures of the security state, and freedom summer. In 2014, I taught Race and the Limits of Law for Telluride's Ithaca location. The first few days were exactly like my 2022 seminar. Students came with extraordinary abilities, they asked probing questions, and they were sometimes awkward. Then, as the 6 weeks went by, I could see the students forming bonds with each other and with me, and I could see their commitment to the course. They always showed up on time. They always did the work. My daughter turned one during the seminar, and not knowing anyone in town, we had the students over to the house we were staying at for her birthday party. It happened across the Telluride, I think, right? It happened across the Telluride website 6 years later, and was surprised to see my picture from the birthday party. I happened across the Telluride website 6 years later, and I was surprised to see my picture from the birthday party on the front page. With those fond memories, and with excitement at the prospect of revisiting thorny questions about race after the national conversation had changed so much because of Black Lives Matter. Telluride, is that it? I reached out to Telluride to explore teaching the seminar again. Telluride seminars are co-taught. My seminar was taught with my wife, a lawyer, and Indigenous Studies professor. In the wake of the George Floyd protests, a group of Black Telluride alumni pressured the association to examine the racism that they claimed was baked into the organizational culture. We have all experienced anti-Blackness within the association and through its programs, their open letter said. The result was a redesign of the summer seminars. Telluride would now offer only critical Black studies and anti-oppressive studies seminars. The former would seek to focus more specifically on the needs and interests of Black students. The seminar I taught, Race and the Limits of Law, would be classed with the latter. In this, Telluride continued a pattern of tracking liberal values as they evolved. It offered courses on race since the 1950s, and the Ithaca House was known as the most liberal living unit on campus. The 1970s, because of its relative early acceptance of Jewish, Black, and female students. In 1993, at the height of U.S. multiculturalism, Telluride began offering a new stream of seminars focused on race and difference and aimed at underrepresented students. But perhaps the implosion of my Telluride seminar suggests that this final step, centering Blackness, tempts the U.S. elite, and particularly U.S. elite educational institutions, to take a step too far, a step into incoherence, or worse. At the Cornell location, students live in the same house while participating in two different seminars. In 2014, participants in the two seminar groups lived their lives together seamlessly outside of the seminar, exploring Ithaca and the Cornell campus, eating and laughing together, and setting up a system to govern their community together. In 2022, however, I was told that the critical Black studies students would live and learn separately, creating a fully Black space. My anti-oppressive studies students were separated from them. Instead of participating in a summer community of 32 high school students, my group was to be a community of 12 that would dwindle to 9 by the time of the mutiny. Furthermore, in the 2022 community, afternoons and evenings would no longer be spent having fun and doing homework. Two college-age students called factotums, led by one that I'll call Keisha, were assigned to create anti-racism workshops to fill the afternoon. There were workshops on white supremacy, on privilege, on African independence movements, on the thought and activism of Angela Davis, and more, all of which followed an initial day-long workshop on transformative justice. Students described the workshops as emotionally draining, forcing the high schoolers to confront tough issues and to be challenged in ways that they'd never been challenged before. I'm no stranger to anti-racism workshops. I've participated in many of them, and I have facilitated them myself. But the Telluride workshops were being organized by two college-age students, filled with the spirit of the times. From what I gleaned, they involved crudely conveying certain dogmatic assertions, no matter what topic the workshops were ostensibly about. Some of these were, experiencing hardship conveys authority. There is no hierarchy of oppressions except for anti-Black oppression, which is in a class of its own. Trust Black women. Prison is never the answer. Black people need Black space. Allyship is usually performative. All non-Black people, and many Black people, are guilty of anti-Blackness, and there is no way out of anti-Blackness. The seminar polls The seminar form pulls against the form of the anti-racism workshop, and Telluride was trying to have them both at once. By its nature, a seminar requires patience. Day by day, one intervention builds on another, as one student notices what another student overlooked, and as the professor guides the discussion towards the most important questions. All of this is grounded in a text. Specific words, phrases, arguments, and images from a text offer essential friction for conversation, holding seminar participants accountable to something concrete. The instructor gently, ideally almost invisibly, guides discussion towards what matters. The seminar assumes that each student has innate intelligence, even as we come from different backgrounds, have different amounts and sorts of knowledge and different skills. We can each be formed best if we take advantage of our differing insights to push each other over time again and again. When this practice is occasioned by carefully curated texts, not exclusively great books, but texts that challenge each other and us as they probe issues of essential importance, a seminar succeeds. A seminar takes time. The first day, you'll be frustrated. The second and the third day, you will be frustrated. Even on the last day, you will be frustrated, though ideally, now in a different way. Each intervention in a seminar is incomplete and gets things wrong. Each subsequent intervention is also incomplete and also gets things wrong. But there are plenty of insights and surprises, for each participant looks at a text with different eyes. It is tempting to add, such as life, such as democratic life. We each have different partial knowledge. We each get things wrong over and over. At our best, we enter the fray by listening to each other and complimenting and challenging the insights of our fellows. In the process, over years, decades, we are oriented towards truth and justice. If the seminar is slow food, the anti-racist workshop put on by college-age students is a sugar rush. All the hashtags are there, condensed, packaged, and delivered from a place of authority. The worst sort of anti-racist workshop simply offers a new language for participants to echo, to retweet out loud. Students at Telluride experienced two styles of learning next to each other, but also two different cultures. From the initial transformative justice workshop, students learned to snap their fingers when they agreed with what a classmate was saying. This practice immediately entered the seminar and was weaponized. One student would try out a controversial or just unusual view, silence. Then another student would repeat a piece of anti-racist dogma, and the room would be filled with the click-clap of snapping fingers. During the first week of the 2014 iteration of the seminar, focused on slavery, a Chinese-American student pointed to a movement in our text where white slave owners were providing food for the enslaved and suggested this showed that there were two sides to the issue of slavery. Before I formulated a way to turn his intervention into a stepping stone towards more sophisticated discussion, two students spoke up with other evidence from the text suggesting that slavery is a moral abomination unworthy of both sides' discussion. By the end of the seminar, the initial student, who seemed like he might have a wavering moral compass, expressed a newfound commitment to justice. In the 2022 anti-racism workshops, the non-black students learned that they needed to center black voices and to shut up. Keisha reported that this was particularly difficult for the Asian American students, but that they were working on it. Eventually, two of the Asian American students would be expelled from the program for reasons that Keisha said couldn't be shared with me. The effects of the seminar were quick and dramatic. During the first week, participation was as you would expect. There were 2 or 3 shy students who only spoke in partner or small group work, 2 or 3 outspoken students, and the rest in the middle. One of the black students was outspoken, one in the middle, and one was shy. By the second week of the seminar, the 2 white students were effectively silent. 2 of the Asian American students remained active, the ones who would soon be expelled, but the vast majority of interventions were from the 3 black students. The 2 queer students, one Asian and one white, were entirely silent. The black students certainly had interesting things to say and important connections to make with their experiences and those of their family members, but a seminar succeeds when multiple perspectives clash into each other, grapple with each other, and develop, and that became impossible. In their transformative language workshop, my students learned to name harms. This language and the framework it expresses comes out of the prison abolition movement. Instead of matching crimes with punishments, abolitionists encourage us to think about harms and how they can be made right, often through inviting a broader community to discern the impact of harms, the reasons they came about, and paths forward. In the language of the anti-racism workshop, a harm becomes anything that makes you feel not quite right. For a 17-year-old at a highly selective, all-expenses-paid summer program, newly empowered with the language of harm, there are relatively few sites at which to use this framework. My seminar became the site at which to try out and weaponize this language. During our discussion of incarceration, an Asian American student cited federal inmate demographics. About 60% of those incarcerated are white. The black students said they were harmed. They had learned in one of their workshops that objective facts are a tool of white supremacy. Outside of the seminar, I was told, the black students had to devote a great deal of time to making right the harm that was inflicted on them by hearing prison statistics that were not about blacks. A few days later, the Asian American student was expelled from the program. Similarly, after a week focused on the horrific violence, death, and disposition inflicted on Native Americans, Keisha reported to me that the black students and their allies were harmed because we hadn't focused sufficiently on anti-blackness. When I tried to explain that we had 4 weeks focused on anti-blackness coming soon, as indicated in the syllabus, she said the harm was urgent and it needed to be addressed immediately. In a recent book, John McWhorter asserts that anti-racism is a new religion. It was an idea that I quickly dismissed. Last summer, I found anti-racism to be a perversion of religion. I found a cult. From Wild Wild Country to the Nixivism shows to Scientology exposés, the features of cults have become familiar in popular culture. There is sleep deprivation, ties to the outside world are severed, the sense of time collapses, with everything cult-related feeling extremely urgent. Participants are emotionally battered. In this weakened state, participants learn and cling to dogmatic beliefs. Any outsider becomes a threat. The dozen participants in the summer program were spending almost every hour of every day together. I was almost the only outsider they were encountering, and I was marked as a threat. The feature of a cult that seems to be missing from this story is a charismatic leader enforcing the separation of followers from the world, creating emotional vulnerability, and implanting dogma. Enter Keisha. A recent graduate of an Ivy League university, mentored by a television celebrity black intellectual, Keisha introduced herself as a black woman who grew up poor and housing vulnerable, whose grandmother's limbs had been broken by white supremacists, and who had just spent 4 years of college teaching in prisons and advocating for prison abolition. She told the class that she had majored in black studies, had been nurtured by black feminists, though her famous mentor is a man, and that she is planning to devote her life to transforming the academy in the direction of black justice. This reminds me of when Brianna Joy Gray or whatever, when she tweeted out that she was just trying to pay her student loans and she didn't have money for anything. And I don't know how many people know this, but she's a fucking Harvard graduate. She's a Harvard graduate. She's trying to make it sound like she went to some state school and barely yeah, so stupid, but... Is it Greyjoy? Joy Gray? Wait. I always fuck her name up. No, it is Joy Gray. Fuck you. With a law degree also, by the way. Yeah, but... Keisha was tasked by Telluride with serving as a teaching assistant in my class and organizing workshops for the students in the afternoon. I welcomed Keisha into the class, suggesting that we find some days where she could lead discussion or share her own research. Instead, she largely remained silent during class for the first 3 weeks, counter-programming the seminar in the afternoons. During a week on the racist background of the U.S. immigration system, Keisha found one of our texts, the foundational Asian American memoir, Nisi Daughter, insufficiently radical, so she lectured to the students that afternoon about the supposedly more radical Yuri Kochiyama. Keisha was frustrated that our week on incarceration began with George Jackson, and not a black feminist, so she lectured on Angela Davis that afternoon. I talked at length with both Keisha and the class about learning unfolding over time, about the need to wrestle with an idea before moving on to the next one, and about the overall direction of the course. But for her, and soon for the students, everything had to happen now. Nisei. Keisha and I were supposed to meet weekly, but she told me that she couldn't schedule in advance. And then she would let me know when she had availability. She never did. But Keisha did find time to intervene when a student was harmed. During one class, when we discussed Brown v. Board of Education, my co-instructor explained what the doll test was that provided a psychological basis for the Supreme Court's decision. It involved showing children black and white dolls and asking what language they would use to describe them, colored, white, or Negro. During the seminar break, a student had reported this to Keisha, and she rushed in to tell us that the student had been harmed by hearing the word Negro. The fourth week of the seminar examined theories of anti-blackness. It should have been predictable that the seminar would blow up during that week. Since the first days of the summer, Keisha had been talking about how anti-blackness is qualitatively worse than every other system of oppression, so it made sense that she would want us to be stuck on that week, unable to move forward, leaving anti-blackness as the course's climax and a nadir. It happened that on the last day of the anti-blackness week, I had invited the students over to my home where we would talk for a couple hours about the reading, a selection from Frank Wilderson's Afro-Pessimism, and then share a meal. By this time, the students' faces were perpetually sullen, at least when Keisha was in the room. Occasionally, in one-on-one meetings, I could still kid around with them, or hear them chat among themselves about the mundane details of teenage life. As I was beginning the seminar, sitting on the grass in my backyard, Keisha interrupted. I think you should start with a lecture offering context for this reading and telling us the main points. I reminded the class of the seminar format, of the reasons for it, and the snippets of pedagogical theory that we had read and discussed together, exploring the value of the seminar. Keisha insisted I needed to give a lecture immediately. Eventually, I acceded. We had a productive couple hours discussing Wilderson's evocative text, and then I pointed out to the students all the things I said in the initial lecture I would have said during the course of the seminar. Each day, I try to insert the relevant background information and emphasize key points in short interventions so that the seminar can be guided by your questions. There are 24 lectures I could give about Wilderson, each putting this text in a different light, but I want to share with you the information you want in dialogue with the insights that you bring. To the idiom du jour, hold on, okay. If people are spamming the Athene shit on my YouTube chat, just permaban them, okay? I don't know if it's like Athene fans that are trying to get me to go over and talk about, but... To use the idiom du jour, my comment was triggering to Keisha. She launched into a long speech about how I was ignoring the demands of a black woman and how I made the space unsafe for black students. She then announced that she would take the black students back to their house without eating the lunch I had waiting for them. It was clear to me that the situation was getting out of control, and after the students left my house, I reached out to the Tell You Right Association to share my concerns. They promised to investigate. Late Sunday night, I was informed that the students were too exhausted to have class on Monday. Tuesday morning, no one was in the seminar room. I waited 10 minutes and Keisha entered. She said the students had something to say to me. 10 more minutes of waiting in silence, then all 9 remaining students entered, each carrying a piece of paper. One by one, they read a paragraph. Out of their mouths came everything Keisha had said to me during the urgent meetings that she had with me after class when students had allegedly been harmed. The students had all of the dogma of anti-racism, but no actual racism to call it in their world, and Keisha had channeled all of the students' desire to combat racism at me. They alleged I had used racist language, I had misgendered Brittany Griner, I had repeatedly confused the names of 2 black students, my body language harmed them, I hadn't corrected facts that were harmful to hear when the now purged students introduced them in class. I invited them to think about the reasoning of both sides of an argument when only one side was correct. The students ended with a demand. In light of all the harms they had suffered, they could only continue in the class if I abandoned the seminar format and instead lectured each day about anti-blackness, correcting any of them who questioned orthodoxy. The only critical perspectives they were receiving during the summer, they claimed, were from Keisha, a white girl. Oh, I didn't know this was a white girl. A white girl, the one with all the snails. Oh, no, it's not. She wasn't a white girl. She's a black girl. I'm sorry. This is somebody else speaking. No, she is black. A white girl, the one with all the snails, punctuated their point. Keisha speaks for me. She says everything I think better than I ever could. Keisha is uniquely talented at performing her role, but she isn't the author of the play. Pushing anti-racism to its limits, what we reach isn't just hollow doctrine, but abuse. Pathological relationships that cut us off from the world, from the give and take of reasons and feelings unfolding over time that makes up life in the world. We see this crystal clear in the paradoxes that I encountered. The experience was supposed to be organized around a transformative justice rather than a punitive model, yet the community managed to expel 2 of its members. Students continually voiced their desire to find practical actions to help change the world, but after 4 weeks, they had learned to say that anti-blackness is so foundational the world could never change. The students wanted freedom for themselves and for all, but they started to say that the only route to freedom is indoctrination, having me tell them what to think. Saddest of all, for me, was hearing what the black students said. They needed extra help. They were struggling to understand anything from their readings, and they couldn't even know what questions to ask unless they had guidance. First, Keisha said this, then the black students said it, then their allies repeated it in solidarity with them. But I witnessed them learning. I heard them ask critical questions about difficult texts. I saw their writing improve. I saw them use complex concepts in thoughtful ways. They just didn't believe in themselves. After noticing during the first week of the seminar that 2 or 3 students were relatively shy, one black, one Asian, and one white, I asked Keisha if she had any suggestions on how to engage them more fully. She said that she thought the students didn't engage because they didn't feel like the issues discussed in the seminar mattered to them. As the weeks went by, fewer and fewer students turned in written reading responses. Fewer and fewer students showed up on time. They fell asleep in class, and they would walk out for extended snack breaks in the middle of the class. The seminar can't be sustained at Telluride or in the university itself if we understand it as something you enter when you feel like it, stay in as long as your beliefs go unquestioned, and leave when you become uncomfortable. After the students presented their complaints and their demands, I told them that I would need time to reflect. Class ended. I decided that the only way to continue was if the Telluride leadership would intervene, reminding the students that the seminar was part of a larger organization with values and norms, and that I was contracted to teach a college-level seminar understood in the ordinary sense of that term. Telluride is governed and largely run by program alumni who volunteer their time to further the goals of the association. The volunteer overseeing the summer programs explained to me that there were internal divisions within the loose, sprawling Telluride world over the direction of the summer programs, with some corners of that world zealously pursuing a singular focus on anti-blackness, and other corners hoping to continue seminars as they had been conducted in the past. They realized this summer was bumpy, not just in our seminar, but across the program. Because Telluride wanted to respect the democratic self-governance of the student community, the leadership didn't feel comfortable intervening. If the environment was too toxic to continue, I could suspend the seminar, offering a couple meetings where I would act as a guest speaker, setting aside any pretense of continuing with the seminar format. I emailed the students and Keisha with this decision, and with an offer to read and respond to any written work the students produced, and I never heard back. No one sent written work. None indicated a desire to attend a meeting where I would be a guest speaker. The students had almost 2 weeks left. With the seminar canceled, did they go home? Did they tell their parents? Did Keisha lecture to them all day? I don't know. I had extricated myself from the abusive relationship, but 9 students remained captive. Belief in democracy had authorized abuse. There was no way out. At least not for most of the students. But the 3 students who had left, 2 expelled and 1 who had visa problems, individually reached out to me. They wanted to do the readings. They wanted to write papers. They wanted to meet virtually and continue the seminar. So we continued, a seminar in exile, reading the classics of Black thought. C.L.R. James, Charles Chestnut, Harriet Jacobs, James and Grace Lee Boggs, Believers in Democracy, Fugitives from Democracy. Wow. Ooh, it's pretty memey.